Good morning, everyone. I'm Jan Watson, and we are doing the Course in Miracles, Lesson 134. Let me perceive forgiveness as it is. Let us review the meaning of forgiveness, for it is apt to be distorted and to be perceived as something that entails an unfair sacrifice of righteous wrath, a gift unjustified and undeserved, and a complete denial of the truth. In such a view, forgiveness must be seen as eccentric folly, and this course appear to rest in and this course appear to rest salvation on a whim. This tested view of what forgiveness means is easily corrected when you accept the fact that pardon is not asked for what is true. It must be limited to what is false. It is irrelevant to everything except illusions. Truth is God's creation, and to pardon that is meaningless. All truth belongs to Him, reflects His laws, and radiates His love. Does this need pardon? How can you forgive the sinless and eternally benign? The major difficulty that you find in genuine forgiveness on your part is that you still believe you must forgive the truth and not illusions. You conceive of pardon as a vain attempt to look past what is there, to overlook the truth in an unfounded effort to deceive yourself by making an illusion true. This twisted viewpoint but reflects the hold that the idea of sin retains as yet upon your mind as you regard yourself. Because you think your sins are real, you look on pardon as deception. For it is impossible to think of sin as true and not believe forgiveness is a lie. Thus is forgiveness really but a sin, like all the rest. It says the truth is false and smiles on the corrupt as if they were blameless as the grass, and smiles on as white as snow. It is delusional in what it thinks it can accomplish. It would see as right the plainly wrong, the loathsome as the good. Pardon is no escape in such a view. It is merely a further sign that sin is unforgivable, at best to be concealed, denied, or called another name, for pardon is a treachery to truth. Guilt cannot be forgiven. If you sin, your guilt is everlasting. Those who are forgiven from the view their sins are real are pitifully mocked and twice condemned. First by themselves for what they think they did, and once again by those who pardoned them. It is sin's unreality that makes forgiveness natural and wholly sane, a deep relief to those who offer it, a quiet blessing where it is received. It does not countenance illusions, but collects them lightly with a little laugh and gently lays them at the feet of truth. And there they disappear entirely. Forgiveness is the only thing that stands for truth in the illusions of the world. It sees their nothingness and looks straight through the thousand forms in which they may appear. It looks unwise, but it is not deceived. It does not heed the self-accusing shrieks of sinners mad with guilt. It looks on them with quiet eyes and merely says to them, "My brother, what you think is not the truth." The strength of pardon is its honesty, which is so uncorrupted that it sees illusions as illusions, not as truth. It is because of this that it becomes the undeceiver in the face of lies, the great restorer of the simple truth. By its ability to overlook what is not there, it opens up the way to truth, which has been blocked by dreams of guilt. Now are you free to follow in the way your true forgiveness opens up to you. For if one brother has received this gift of you, the door is open to yourself. There is a very simple way to find the door to true forgiveness and perceive it open wide in welcome. When you feel that you are tempted to accuse someone of a sin in any form, do not allow your mind to dwell on what you think he did, for that is self-deception. Ask instead, would I accuse myself of doing this? Thus will you see alternatives for choice in terms that render choosing meaningful and keep your mind as free of guilt and pain as God Himself intended it to be, and as it is in truth. It is but lies that would condemn. In truth is innocence the only thing there is. Forgiveness stands between illusions and truth. between the world you see and that which lies beyond, between the hell of guilt and heaven's gate. Across the bridge, as powerful as love which laid its blessings on it, are all dreams of evil and of hatred and attack brought silently to truth. They are not kept to swell and bluster and to terrify the foolish dreamer who believes in them. He has been gently wakened from his dream by understanding what he thought he saw was never there. And now he cannot feel that all escape has been denied to him. He does not have to fight to save himself. He does not have to kill the dragons which he thought pursued him. Nor need he erect the heavy walls of stone and iron doors he thought would make him safe. He can remove the ponderance and useless armor made to chain his mind to fear and misery. His step is light, and as he lifts his foot to stride ahead, a star is left behind to point the way to those who follow him. Forgiveness must be practiced, for the world cannot perceive its meaning, nor provide a guide to teach you its beneficence. There is no thought in the world that leads to any understanding of the laws it follows, nor the thought it reflects. It is as alien to the world as is your own reality, and yet it joins your mind and the reality in you. Today we practice true forgiveness, that the time of joining be no more delayed, for we would meet with our reality in freedom and in peace. Practicing becomes the footstep lighting up the way for all our brothers who will follow us to the reality we share with them. That this may be accomplished, let us give a quarter of an hour twice today and spend it with the guide who understands the meaning of forgiveness and was sent to us to teach it. Let us ask of him, let me perceive forgiveness as it is. Then choose one brother as he will direct and catalog his sins as one by one they cross your mind. Be certain not to dwell on any one of them, but realize that you are using his offenses to save the world from all ideas of sin. Briefly consider all the evil things you thought of him, and each time ask yourself, would I condemn myself for doing this? Let him be freed from all the thoughts you had of sin in him, and now you are prepared for freedom. If you have been practicing thus far in willingness and honesty, you will begin to sense a lifting up, a lightening of weight across your chest, a deep and certain feeling of relief. The time remaining should be given to experiencing the escape from all the heavy chains you sought to lay upon your brother, but were laid upon yourself. Forgiveness should be practiced through the day, for there will still be many times when you forget its meaning and attack yourself. When this occurs, allow your mind to see through this illusion as you tell yourself, let me perceive forgiveness as it is. Would I accuse myself of doing this? I will not lay this chain upon myself. In everything you do, remember this. No one is crucified alone, and yet no one can enter heaven by himself. That is the end of lesson 134. There were a whole lot of words in that. There were several things that came to mind as I was reading this. One is the hallucination that we can have, the hallucination that is this world. When we have hallucinations, they really feel like they are real. And we can be very paranoid in our hallucinations and feel like someone is trying to attack us or is attacking us. And so we may prepare for that battle, but it's not really even there. And one person I listened to, Carol Howe, who talks of this, she spoke of her brother with Parkinson's, who used to have some pretty vivid hallucinations when he was dealing with his Parkinson's symptoms. And I recall my mom having some vivid hallucinations after she had heart surgery several years ago. And she knew she was in a neighbor's basement, and she could see the people and she could see the basement, and everything seemed very real. And yet she had the understanding that my brother who was there was telling her that it wasn't there. And she said, so I know it's not, but it sure feels real. And that's what happens in this world, is everything that happens in this world feels very real. And we don't want to deny that it feels very real. But what we have to do is just realize that We want to perceive forgiveness as it is. And forgiveness is allowing us to let go of that burden and to realize that nobody can do anything to us really without our choosing how we respond. If you watch many people, there are people who have come out of any kind of abuse and never chosen to be a victim. They don't feel that victim mentality. They choose to learn the lessons. They choose to see it with love. And that's part of what forgiveness is I don't want to carry that pain and that suffering with me anymore. When we are unforgiving, we carry the pain and the suffering and we revisit that moment that that person did that one thing, and we make that the definition of the person, and we make that the definition of ourselves. And then we can't move forward and we can't move backwards. And we're sort of in that eternal loop of pain. And, if I stub my toe on a rug or the rock or a dog toy, that moment has pain. And that moment, I clearly wasn't paying attention to my actions. But if I keep going back and reliving that moment and reliving that pain and focusing on the pain, I'm never going to move past that. Even if the physical body heals, I'm still going to be in the moment of that trauma and how painful that was. And forgiveness allows us to just say, wow, okay, that was an event that felt like it was real. And I had an experience, but I'm not going to let it define me. I'm going to choose to move on. I could go on for a long time. I will not. We will read Tina Spalding's channelings. Let me perceive forgiveness as it is. You are blessed beings indeed. I am that one that you know as Jesus. It is so important for you to realize that your judgments, hatreds, and attacks, even though you think they are justified, put you in hell. You suffer because of the constant litany of decisions you make, thinking that things should be other than the way they are. It is simply arguing with reality. When you begin to love what is, regardless of whether you understand it or not, when you see something happening in the world or you see somebody behave in a way you think inappropriate, how about you start by saying, I actually don't know everything, and I don't know what those people's paths are. I don't know what role they're playing in this grand design. I will just observe with forgiving eyes for a little while. I will not be sucked in by the media. I will not be sucked in by my friend's repetition of the media. I will simply say, I don't know. That is forgiving. When you step back from attack and gossip, as well as pretending you know why people do things and how they should be punished, you are in fact playing God when you do that. When you realize you play God and you have no qualifications to do so, becoming a passerby with all of the dramas of this life becomes easier and easier. What seems like a good idea in January turns out to be a bad idea in June. What seems like a bad idea in June turns out to be a good idea in September. If you are patient and allow life to play out without leaping and jumping to ignorant conclusions, you will find that you suffer less. You realize, my first instinct was to get in there and say something, but now, a week later, I hear the other side of the story. For example, I see that problem resolved itself and that everybody within the problem had needed a stimulus to begin communication, or they needed a challenge to get themselves over a little hump. What seemed to be a bad idea was not bad. Had you become involved in it and participated in the drama, perhaps you would have derailed a beneficial situation. Do not be so sure that you know what everyone is up to. We suggest you pay attention to what you are up to. See the world with forgiving eyes. Know that it has its own energies. Sometimes people need to play out their own dramas, and many of them are not yours. How about focusing on your life? Are you focusing enough on your life, or are you involved with things across the other side of the planet and other people's business? Are you neglecting your life? Are you projecting all your energies on situations, people, places, and things that really have nothing to do with you? Bring back your focus. Call back those little tendrils of your awareness and employ them in doing good for you or for your life. Invest in your life. Cultivate your mind and educate yourself about these spiritual truths and spiritual principles. Become loving in your life. Step back from judging everybody. This is the practice of forgiveness. I am that one that you know as Jesus, and we will see you again tomorrow. How often we do that, and how often you hear that in the media, and they use it in marketing. Today, coffee is good for you. Tomorrow, coffee is bad for you. It is just a ping pong match when we are not in a forgiving space. And if you can pull yourselves out of that and understand that there is a grander design, there is a big picture, and perhaps consider the fact that even the worst attacker, the worst criminal, if you will, is coming from a place of they are doing their best with the knowledge, the information, and the mindset that they have in that moment. And so you don't know what their agenda, what their lessons are. And you don't know what they've been through that got them to this point. And they don't know what you've been through. And so their agenda for whatever they do has nothing to do with you. It's not unlike if you see someone who is driving a nice car, you assume that they are very wealthy and they have a lot of money. And so maybe you go steal whatever's in their purse or something, or you go and you steal the car. If you would have listened to the other person's story before you made your assumptions and made your attack or defend, you would have realized that it was someone who was driving someone else's car to get paid because they didn't have any money. And now that they've lost the car, they don't get paid and they have to find a way to pay for the car, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And so while you were feeling cheated out of the good life and you saw that person as having the good life and you wanted to take it back, you missed most of the story. Forgiveness allows us to pull that kind of judgment back and go, you know what? That wasn't intended to hurt me. That was intended to help the other person. It was intended to somehow make something right. Most things, most crimes are not personal. It doesn't make them right or wrong, but they are not as personal as we take them. The only personal thing in life is how you respond to you. Everyone else is projecting themselves onto their own world. And so I encourage you to consider forgiveness by pulling back from the drama and allowing yourself to move beyond that moment of the pain and suffering. Have a great day, guys. I'll talk to you tomorrow. Bye.